My father was very abusive. He no longer wanted to be a part of our lives. So he actually just walked away. I got kicked out of school at 14 years old. All I know is how to be angry, how to argue, and how to fight. That's what I know. I wanted to be better. At 16, I got my GED. I went back to school, and today I'm working on a second master's. Couldn't fix my daddy, can't fix my mother. It has to start with us.
We are here with Martha, who wrote the fabulous book, her along with other authors, From Pain to Poetry. This book of poems is very interesting because they talk about bags. There are various bags that we all carry, but in particular, what women carry. Martha, this was a wonderful read. What inspired you? What got you going?
As women, we just all deal with so many things emotionally. And so we wanted to have women to be able to identify with something. So we decided to place names on bags and titles, definitions with the bags so that you could look at the bag and say, that's me.
Clearly there was a bag that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you share with us what that bag was?
It's kind of a combination of the punching bag and whatever bag that we have that represents that girl that grew up without her father. My father was very abusive, and as children, we watched, hid, and cried, terrified of, the stuff that kind of went on.
But he was abusive. He was abusive to who?
My mother.
Okay.
Yeah. After 17 years of marriage, he actually just one day decided that he no longer wanted to be a part of our lives, period. So he actually just walked away.
It had to have an impact on you.
It did, but it was kind of strange because at times, they kind of got to the place where they would actually just fight each other. And so it wasn't always him at one point. It was some of her too, but I guess she had gotten conditioned. I don't know. But to the abuse and, it was just, I don't know. It was just,
so do you think that you might have gotten conditioned?
I did.
As well?
Because, as a teenager, I was very verbally abusive. Very
to you were verbally, people were verbally abusive to you, or you were verbally abusive
to people, because that's all I had known. All I had known.
You were a bully.
Not really a bully. Yeah, but don't say anything to me because then you're going to get it.
Okay.
Exactly. And so that's all I ever knew was fight.
Okay, so you built up the defense mechanism for yourself.
Yes,
after seeing all those years of abuse, and probably at 10 years old, you made up in your mind that you weren't going to go through that.
No.
From no one.
Never.
Now, the interesting thing is, though, as you got older, did you hold true to that you were not going to be abused? Or did you fall into...
I was not going to be abused. All I know is how to be angry, how to argue, and how to fight. That's what I know.
Was that wall so strong that you became somewhat abusive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so how did you realize that, what was the light bulb that went off in your head that said, wait, something's wrong and it starts with me?
When my father decided to come back into our lives, and it was by my invite, I had a conversation with another woman, a Caucasian co-worker, and she explained to me some things that happened in her relationship with her father. And so at that point, I realized that I was not the only one. And so it was at that point, I think, I decided that I was no longer going to be validated. I didn't need that relationship to validate who I was as a woman, and that God had already did that. So I had to seek His will for my life and how I should behave and act as a wife versus leaning on the experiences that were in my past.
But then you evolved, and so you took all of that learning, and then when you were enlightened through your own experience, you decided to change your life. And in changing your life, did you stay married? Did you not stay married?
I've been married for 15 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time, everybody.
Yeah.
So, but But the wonderful thing is that you stayed married, but you made for a better wife, a better relationship,
Exactly.
because you came into the knowledge of, wait a minute, there needs to be some healing here. There needs to be some, I need to evolve in some way and become a better person. So you focused on you first. You didn't try to fix somebody else.
No,
you fixed
me.
you. You fixed you.
Yeah.
Isn't that powerful?
It is. I got kicked out of school at 14 years old. At 16, I got my GED. At 18, I was married and cried to my husband because I wanted to be better. Went back to school, and today I'm working on a second master's. So it has to start with us as the individual. Couldn't fix my daddy. Can't fix my mother.
But isn't that a powerful story? Isn't it wonderful how God would take us through life's journeys only to build a wonderful testimony?
Yes,
And isn't that powerful?
it is.
And so you now want to take that as a platform and share your experience
With somebody
with
else.
somebody else so that they
Exactly.
could become a better person.
Yes.
And you did it through poetry,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so you wrote some wonderful poems in the book, From Pain to Poetry. So you're not a person who just wrote a book for the sake of writing a book. It is true to form. You went from pain to poetry.
Exactly.
Isn't it wonderful how God would take our pains and just turn it into poetry?
Yes.
Okay. My favorite poem that, because I cheated, I looked in the back to see who wrote what. And the one that impacted me the most was I Lost My Son. And it sounds as though that the individual physically lost a child through violence on the street. How does that resonate with you? What is the story?
When I wrote I Lost My Son, I had my 17-year-old cousin in Florida. He was shot walking home from work. And so I was going through so many things emotionally. As a mother who had a son, I could not imagine what it would feel like as a mother to lose your son when you've done everything that you could to raise him right. Children, period, not just your son, but you've done everything that you could within your power to raise him right. But then someone else's son comes along and for absolutely no reason at all, after he's begged for his life, and takes it away.
I can't imagine that. I think the most painful thing that a human being can go through is losing a child.
Yeah.
I don't have any children, but I have a nephew that was involved with gang violence. I love him unconditionally. And if he were to have gotten shot or killed, I can't imagine the amount of pain that his parents would go through, but that would be one of the most painful things that I would experience. So yes, you're right. It doesn't have to be your own child.
Yeah.
It could be someone that you love immensely, and see them go through that pain and understand it and come to terms with it. Out of the book, what poem would you say resonates with you the most?
My Soul Cried.
Tell me about it.
I recently lost my father in January, back in January. I think there were some opportunities available for us to mend our brokenness, but because of some things that I was still dealing with, I didn't allow it to happen. And once he was no longer here, he was in his 60s, he's no longer here, and I'm feeling like things were left undone. You know, I could have said, you know, I forgive you, or I could have forgiven him, but because of, you know, other things that were going on inside of me, because not only do I still have issues with what happened when we were children, I have issues with his lack of wanting to still participate in our lives as adults, you know, and participate in the lives of his grandchildren. And so, but
that's very real pain.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to be loved unconditionally by their parents, so that's very real pain.
Yes.
So you didn't feel as though you had closure.
Yeah, pretty
Right.
much. Yeah.
And so let me just speak to that, and I can understand why that's one of your favorite poems. But often when we forgive we forgive others, not for them, but we forgive others for ourselves.
Ourselves, yes, and I.
So you still can forgive him
Mm-hmm.
for your own healing.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And I think you have a wonderful story to tell.
Thank
Give me
you.
a hug. Give me a hug, big lady.
I had a brush with death when I tried to commit suicide. That's when I really realized, this is really serious. I'm unhappy. I don't like me. I don't like myself. I hate myself. I don't like where I am right now. I really just don't want to be here anymore. It was a cry for help, but I think I took it a step further. It didn't matter what people said about me, and it didn't matter what people thought about me. What mattered was what I thought about myself.